Monday night college basketball crowned a new champion as Florida took down Houston 67-65. And my question is, did you know about it? Did you watch it? Were you interested in it? Or were you like me, who had literally no knowledge of this at all? And the only reason that I found out was because I opened up the ESPN app and it was the front page story. And you might be sitting there going like, well, bro, you don't know ball. Fine, okay, fair point. Maybe I don't. Maybe this was the most popular thing going on. Maybe this was a game that captivated audiences and I am just on the outside looking in. I don't think I am, though. I'm wondering who's had a worse week. Is it college basketball or is it my stock portfolio? And this is a bigger issue, and it's part of what I kind of went into with my Temple basketball video that I posted earlier this week, where I think NIL has really killed the viewing experience for the casual fan, which I am. Like, I'm never going to watch St. Bonaventure take on UC Irvine on a Thursday in November. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to be honest about it, all right? It's just us girls talking here. We can be honest. I'm not some diehard college basketball fan. And maybe this has to do with the fact that I am a Temple basketball fan, and that franchise has been dormant for, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And I did a video and said, look, they're dead. The franchise is dead. The school is dead. The team is dead. The administration has blood on their hands, and they're sitting there looking like O.J. Simpson in the courtroom. Huh? What? Is it me? Yeah, it's you. So maybe that's why my interest has gone by the wayside. Maybe I didn't hear about it from friends around the Philadelphia area, because Philadelphia, I think this is the third year in a row where there hasn't been a Philly school in March Madness, in the NCAA tournament. And Lord only knows, when Nova goes on their run, you got Action News in the bars interviewing people, and when LaSalle a couple years ago went on the Sweet 16, same thing. Like, this city latches on to whatever Big Five school is doing well. But when no Big Five school is doing well, who do you have to latch on to? Maybe that's a reason why this wasn't really in my periphery. I don't know. But for me, I have noticed that my interest in college basketball has evaporated quickly. And I think a big reason why is NIL, but more so it's the fact that I don't know who these guys are because they're switching teams constantly. And you can't simply watch a program grow. You can't watch a guy develop for a coach because all of a sudden it's transfer portal, out, gone. Where's the money at? And I don't blame these players, by the way. I'd be doing the same thing. If Baghdad University called me up and handed me the bag, guess what? I'm a Baghdad bomber. Let's go. Let's get after it. I'm moving to Baghdad. So I don't blame these guys. But I feel like this is a situation that kind of like needed to happen with the players getting some portion of the money. Yet it might actually end up hurting in the long run the casual interest, which is what you see here with me at least. And I'm just talking about my personal interest in college basketball. I would have at least known who was in the NCAA championship game. I couldn't tell you who was in the Final Four. Truthfully, I didn't even know the game happened unless it was the fact, I opened up my app. I was like, oh, it happened last night. Had no idea. Completely unaware. This is the first year I didn't fill out a college bracket because I just didn't follow college basketball like I had in the past. And as I said, I'm a casual, but I was a casual that still knew who the good teams were, who the good players were. And now you've got a situation with college basketball where not only are you fighting NIL, but you have some kids who are skipping college altogether and going right to the G League and getting paid there, where they then sit out their 1 year that the NBA requires, and then they get drafted. So that was another part of it, whereas you were sitting there as a basketball fan watching the NCAA tournament because you wanted to see some of these kids that might be top 5 picks. I understand, by the way, that Duke was in the Final Four, and I know that Cooper Flagg balled out, and obviously he's projected to be the number 1 overall pick. So the argument I just made, this isn't the best time to do it. But other than Cooper Flagg, if you look at a mock draft, it's like the 2 Rutgers guys. Well, Rutgers didn't make the NCAA tournament, And then after that, I don't know. I'm guessing it's some, Euro player. I have no idea. But it used to be the day and age of like, okay, you would see a guy, you'd see him develop, and you would be able to watch him in March Madness and know full well whether he was going to be, stock rise, stock fall, or whatever. It's done. It's gone. And it sucks. Because I used to enjoy following the Cinderella teams and the March Madness. The fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, the fact that the most popular figure for March Madness was McNeese State's student manager, who simply just came out with a boombox looking goofy, kind of speaks volumes to me. Nothing against that kid. What, Amir Khan? Nothing against Amir Khan. But the fact that he captivated audiences, more so than a lot of the games, speaks volumes to me. And maybe I'm just a bitter Temple basketball fan who's seen the program get decimated by the transfer portal. But now it's just hired guns, and it's one-year guys on one-year deals. And, then all of a sudden they're leaving for greener pastures. And, I'm not about it because it's tough to follow. It's tough to follow a program, and it's tough to follow programs when you can't see that growth because, good player, gone. So I'm very interested to hear whether or not I am the only person that really saw their interest level in college basketball just crash out like the Hindenburg. And I know for me it is the NIL situation. Would I have been more interested in college basketball if Temple were good? Honestly, I don't think so. I probably would have just watched Temple, if I'm being brutally honest with myself here. But at least I would have watched Temple enough where I would have known who the good teams were because I would have been dialed into matchups and rankings and all that. So yeah, the fact that my favorite team is on the downswing and is in a situation where they're kind of in hell definitely hurts, no doubt. But I'm interested, I'm catering to a Philadelphia audience, but it's on the internet. If you're a fan of Nova, who had a rough year with Kyle Neptune, if you're a fan of St. Joe's, if you're a fan of really any school that didn't make the tournament, have you noticed that your interest level has dropped? Because I was kind of surprised when I opened up the app and went, oh, no idea. Maybe I'm just following the wrong people on Twitter. I don't know. But for me, I don't really see it changing either. I don't see all of a sudden me going I'm dialed in now. Cooper Flag wasn't enough. The Sixers are really bad. The Sixers have the 5th worst record in the NBA. It's not unheard of that they would get the number 1 overall pick and be able to draft that kid. Still didn't do it for me. Still didn't care. So, let me know. Let me know if I'm the only one that it seems like college basketball has really, really taken a hit. And I feel like the guilty party in this situation is NIL. So hockey has a new all-time goals king in Alexander Ovechkin, who broke Wayne Gretzky's record on Sunday in a 4-1 loss against the New York Islanders. But that one goal was Ovi's, and with it, he propelled himself into the record books past Wayne Gretzky with his 895th goal of his career. He scored every single one of those with the Washington Capitals, but what if I were to tell you that he almost did it, not with the Capitals, but with the Florida Panthers? Here's a quick hockey story that you might not be familiar with. So the year is 2003, and the Florida Panthers hold the number 1 overall pick. And the consensus number 1 overall pick that year was goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury. But here's the thing. The Florida Panthers, they didn't need Marc-Andre Fleury. They had a really, really good young goaltender, a stud young goaltender in Roberto Luongo. Now, what they needed was a generational forward. And the 2003 draft was loaded. It's arguably the best first round we've ever seen. The 2015 draft is up there. But, this draft it's like a who's who. It's Jeff Carter, Zach Parise. Nathan Horton ended up going 3 to Florida eventually. Dustin Brown. It's one of those drafts where you look at the first round and you go, okay, I'm only seeing 1 or 2 guys that I don't really recognize their name. They probably didn't play in the league, or if they did, it was for a cup of coffee, handful of games. There's really 1 or 2 draft busts, which is pretty rare in hockey. Shout out to Hugh Jesseman. But with all those names in the first round of the 03 draft, one name is missing, and that's Alexander Ovechkin. And so at the time, you had Florida was owned by a guy named Alan Cohen. And Cohen is sitting with the scouting department one day, and he overhears a story about how it's unfortunate that they had the number one overall pick that year and not in 04, because the next year there is a generational forward coming out of Russia named Alexander Ovechkin. And Cohen's like, yeah, man, that'd be cool to have that guy. But then he finds out that Alexander Ovechkin missed the cutoff by a mere 2 days. And that's when Alan Cohen got cooking. Like, this dude sat in his lab and he decided, you know what, I'm going to get nuts and I'm going to still try to get Ovechkin. So he called over his GM at the time, a guy named Rick Dudley, and he said, what if we get really weird? And what if we tell the NHL that Ovechkin is actually eligible? Because if you take out leap years from the calendar, he would be eligible this year. And then we take him. And we look like geniuses. And to his credit, Rick Dudley's like, bro, that's never going to work. But Alan Cohen's the owner, and he said, do it. Do it. So Rick Dudley's like, yeah, all right, man, I'll see what I can do. So he heads up to Central Registry, and he tells them the plan. He goes, look, we're going to make the claim that Alexander Ovechkin is eligible if you take out the leap years. We're planning on taking him at 3. Can we have him at 3? Central Registry is like, yeah, we'll get back to you, Chief, in about 5 minutes. They go, no, pick somebody else. And they went so far as to say, if you do end up picking Alexander Ovechkin, you're losing your 3rd overall pick. They weren't about to do that. They took Nathan Horton. He was a good power forward for a while there. Had a couple really good years with them in Florida, but eventually injuries took their toll. Look, good forward, not Alexander Ovechkin. And Florida got the message. Okay, we can't have Ovechkin in this round. But here's the thing about hockey. When you reach the later rounds, you're just taking flyers. And the Florida Panthers had a 6th, a 7th, and 8th, and 2 9th-round picks to play with. And starting around the 6th round, they decided to go up there and make a different claim on why they should be able to draft Alexander Ovechkin. And each time, the NHL was like, no, you're not allowed to draft Ovechkin. It's kind of like when your kid walks up to you and they really want like ice cream for dinner, and you say no, and then they come up later and they go, yeah, but it's healthy. It's got milk in it. You're like, no. Like, well, okay, 5 minutes later, I was really good at school. Like, it was one of those situations. They were rewording it, and the NHL was still shooting them down. But in the 9th round, with their last pick, they decided, you know what? We actually have to put this on record. We have to put pen to paper that we tried to draft him. So we're actually going to draft him. We're going to put the claim in, and we are going to put pen to paper that the Florida Panthers are going to select Alexander Ovechkin in the 9th round. And then if it goes to an arbitrator and we end up winning, we actually have a claim on Alexander Ovechkin. This is similar stuff that's happened before. I think the Red Wings did it with Pavel Datsyuk. I know that the Vancouver Canucks did it with Pavel Bure. So, like, similar things have happened in hockey. But in this particular case, the NHL, of course, shot them down, and they allowed them to keep the 9th round pick. And amazingly, they ended up taking a good play. They took Tanner Glass out of, I believe, Dartmouth or Brown, one of the Ivy League schools. And Tanner Glass had a 500 game career in the NHL. He was an enforcer type, but once again, not Ovechkin. So the Florida Panthers ended up trying to get Ovechkin. They were never able to get Ovechkin. There's legends out there that they tried to draft him 4 or 5 times, when in reality it was really only that one time that they actually made a claim in. But hey, kudos to them. They tried to get creative. The next year, Alexander Ovechkin goes on to be the number 1 overall pick by the Washington Capitals. Did we see him that year? No, we didn't. Why? There was a lockout. So we ended up seeing him come in with Sidney Crosby, and then thus the rivalry started. This is awesome for hockey. Like, I remember when the season started, and I thought, okay, Ovi's not doing it this year because that's a whole lot of goals, and at that age, it's going to be really tough. But he's going to do it in 2025, 2026. Like, I firmly believe that he was going to break it at some point that season. I don't know what the dude was on this year, but for him to score that many goals at this age is insane. He's going to end up eclipsing 900 easily because he's still got some left in the tank. I think the most amazing thing is when you look at the comparison between Gretzky and Ovi and the fact that they basically did it the exact same amount of games. Like, that is wild to me. Now, I'm a firm believer that I think eventually Austin Matthews will probably end up breaking whatever record this ends up being. It's kind of like the home run record. Like McGwire got it from Maris, and then it was like, okay, but Bonds is now roiding up. I think it's a situation like that. For Matthews, it's going to be just a question of can he stay healthy, because Ovi's frame is like, I'm going to run you over. And Austin Matthews doesn't have that kind of frame. I think one thing that's going in the favor of Austin Matthews is the fact that Austin Matthews hopefully won't be dealing with work stoppages. Like, you have to remember that Alexander Ovechkin, as I said, he missed his rookie year. He ended up having a rookie year, obviously, but that 03 year was canceled. So he missed an entire year of hockey. And then on top of it, he ended up missing a half a year of hockey when they had that stupid work stoppage in, I think, 2011, 2012. And they ended up having like a 41-game season. So he's missed a year and a half just on labor issues. It seems like right now the NHL and the NHLPA are in a good spot, and I know that recently there was discussions that they're going to go back to the table to hopefully have, peace that we don't have yet another work stoppage. But if Austin Matthews ends up on the trek that he is, and there is no work stoppages, then I think he will break it. But I think what's amazing too is every time one of these records gets broken, whether it's LeBron with Kareem's points and all that, the debate happens of whether or not the player that had the record could play in today's day and age, and who's actually the best one. Is it the guy who just broke the record, or is it the guy who had the record? I am of the firm belief that Wayne Gretzky could absolutely play in today's NHL. Like, no question about it, I think he could play. I think people forget about the fact that he went from playing with wooden sticks to composite and was still putting up a ton of points. And not only that, but I think the game today is better for a player like Gretzky. I mean, it was Sodom and Gomorrah back in the 80s and 90s. They were letting you pretty much take guys' heads off. Nowadays, it's not that. But this I think also is a good chance to remind people to just enjoy the greatness. I'm somebody that didn't like Alexander Ovechkin. I was always this is going to be controversial, I was always a Crosby guy in the battle of Crosby versus Ovi. And something about Ovechkin, like he was one of those guys that like I just didn't like. But as I've gotten older, you end up appreciating the greatness. I think that is happening with a lot of Flyers fans with Crosby. Like, they don't necessarily still like them, but you get to respect them because you're watching one of the greatest of all time. And in this situation, you're watching right now he is the greatest goal scorer of all time, and he might still be that. I mean, we don't know what happens with Austin Matthews' career, but soak it in, because it doesn't happen often where a guy like Alexander Ovechkin comes around and does what he did this season, but it also does what he did in his entire career. So enjoy this, because you'll end up telling your grandkids that you watched Alexander Ovechkin play hockey when they're sitting on your lap and they're looking up at you and they're saying, "Poppy, who are the best players of all time?" And you're like, "Well, let me tell you about this guy, Alexander Ovechkin from Russia. He was really good." And you're going to tell them, I'm getting way too in the weeds. Anyway, I'll leave. UFC 314 goes down this weekend as Alexander Volkanovski takes on Diego Lopez for the vacant featherweight championship. I will give you a betting preview of who I think is going to win on the main card. I'll give you a fight or two from the prelims that I like, but mostly this is going to be focused on the main card, because after all, if you're paying $80 for this card, you probably want to make some, if not more, of that money back. I will try to help you with this. This is a precursor to all of this. Just know that if you use this information and you do end up betting with it and you do lose, we lost together. Take it for what it's worth. All right. This card is $80. The price on pay-per-view just keeps going up and up and up. And I think it's worth splitting it. I don't think this is... It's very rare that I'll say a card is worth $80. I think this card is good, though. I think it is good. I will likely be heading out to a bar that has it for free, but I do think it is worth getting a couple of buddies together and maybe splitting it. It is tough for me to justify you sitting in your house just paying $80 for a card that's not, UFC 300. That card was worth $80 and then some. But, all right, let's get to the main card for this one, and it kicks off with Nikita Krylov taking on Dominic Reyes. Now, Nikita Krylov is on a nice win streak right now, really nice win streak. And Dominic Reyes is on a 2-fight win streak. He ended up beating Anthony Smith in his last one, which unfortunately, I think at this point isn't that great of a win. And just because Anthony Smith is kind of checked out. But before that, he got back in the win column against Dustin Jacoby. So 2-fight win streak for Dominic Reyes. And remember, this is a guy that I think a lot of people, myself included, think that he beat John Jones, even though it didn't go his way on the judges' scorecards, but certainly looked like it. But in that fight, it just seems like he lost something because he ended up going on that wicked losing streak. Didn't help the fact that his next fight, I believe, was against Yuri Prochazka, who ended up beating the brakes off of him. But you got Dominic Reyes back in the win column, and you're taking on a guy that I just flat out think has faced better competition. And I think that this is a step up for Dominic Reyes to see, okay, is he actually back? Or is he now just kind of that gatekeeper-ish guy? So when you look at Nikita Krylov's win streak currently, he's on a 3-fight win streak, but it's very, very different. Now, he's faced Alexander Gustafsson to start it off. Alexander Gustafsson at this point is kind of washed. After that, he beats Volkan Oezdemir, who is that lightweight gatekeeper, in my opinion. He's a lightweight Jeff Neal-ish kind of fighter where you figure out, okay, is this guy the real deal or not? Oh, let's give him Oezdemir. And he ended up beating him in a unanimous decision. And then his last fight out, he ended up doing a triangle choke on Ryan Spann to end up winning that one. I think Nikita Krylov is just a better overall fighter. And I think he's probably faced better, more recent competition. That's not to say that Dominic Reyes can't win this fight. I mean, I was impressed with Dominic Reyes' last outing, but as I said, he faced a guy that I think is just checked out, and he's clearly on his way out. Anthony Smith has announced he will be retiring after his next fight. But a large part of me hopes that this is a fight where Dominic Reyes wins, because I think the lightweight realm is better with Dominic Reyes in it, fighting at a high level. And I hope he gets in that win column. I hope he proves me wrong. In this instance, though, I'm going to have to go with Nikita Krylov. After that, you have a newcomer to the UFC, but not a newcomer to you MMA fans. Patricio Pitbull, I believe a former 2-division champion at Bellator, but if I'm wrong, I'm sure the comment section will call me a casual, but definitely a guy that had held the featherweight title in Bellator. He's going to be taking on former interim champion Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez is one of the more frustrating fighters for me because he never fights. He never fights, and he's exciting. Like, I enjoy watching this dude fight. But to me, he's the featherweight Bo Nickel, but worse. His last fight was, I believe, February 2024. What are you doing? Don't tell me you haven't been offered fights. You have. And then the thing is, if he wins this Patricio Pitbull matchup, I'm sure he'll be calling for the winner of the main event. He'll be calling for the champion, for Alexander Volkanovski or for Diego Lopez, even though he's very, very inactive. But that's just me on my soapbox. I do think Yair Rodriguez takes this one, though. I think that Bellator guys coming in here, they have had success, like Michael Chandler had immediate success beating Dan Hooker. But I think at this point, Yair Rodriguez is a really, really tough fighter to figure out for a lot of people. And I think trying to mimic that stylistically in the gym is going to be difficult. Now, look, Yair Rodriguez gets a lot of credit, and Lord only knows the broadcast will point out the knockout that he had against the Korean Zombie, and you forget that the Korean Zombie won 4 minutes and 58 seconds of that entire round. He had won to that point 24 minutes and 58 seconds that entire fight. Like, he was beating the hell out of Yair Rodriguez. But the creativity of Yair Rodriguez ended up getting him that win when he just randomly throws that elbow up, knocks him out. So, look, he's a creative fighter. I think he is, at this point, though, better than Patricio. I think he will end up taking this, and the betting odds are in the favor of Yair. I believe he's like a 190 favorite in this one, not overly surprised. I mean, when you look at some of the guys that Patricio Pitbull has lost to, they're kind of washed UFC fighters. And now you've got a guy that has been sitting on the sidelines for over a year, should be pretty fresh relatively. It's going to be difficult. The next fight on the card is a very, very heated fight. Bryce Mitchell taking on Gene Silva. These two have been going at it left and right in the lead up to this one. Gene Silva is oozing confidence. Bryce Mitchell is trying this like God thing. I don't know where God was when Josh Emmett's right hand connected with his face, but he certainly wasn't in the octagon defending Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell's going to do Bryce Mitchell things. He's going to get out there. He's going to give crazy eyes while holding up a Bible, and he is going to attempt to inflict a lot of damage on Gene Silva, who is riding a 12-fight win streak into this one, and his last fight was hell of impressive. This isn't, I don't think, the best fight for Bryce Mitchell in terms of people are going to focus on the fact that he was knocked out into the shadow realm by Josh Emmett. You forget that he's already fought since then, and he won that fight. Granted, it was against Cron Gracie, who will just pull guard the entire time, and Cron Gracie did that and then got his face elbowed off by Bryce Mitchell. But the recovery, the fight against Josh Emmett should not affect him at all in this fight. I am a Bryce Mitchell fan in terms of what he does in the octagon. I think he's a dipshit outside of it. I think he is a prime example of like, let's actually put money into the education system, because he's a moron to the nth degree. And I would never say that to his face because, that'd be dangerous for my health. But he is the epitome of what you think of when you probably hear of like Arkansas Hick. That's him. But he is extremely talented. And Gene Silva hasn't gone to a decision since he was on the Contender Series. Now, he's gone to the third round. He's gone deep in the third round. But primarily, he's gone in the third rounds where he hasn't had to really struggle in those fights. Bryce Mitchell, I think, is going to get this one on the ground and use his grappling and wrestling and end up using his just overall ground game to put Gene Silva into a stranglehold. Would I like to see Gene Silva knock out Bryce Mitchell at this point? Yeah, I would. The stuff on his podcast was just like, dude, you're turning me off from being a fan. But I think overall, Bryce Mitchell's going to do enough in this fight on the feet to eventually get it to the ground and submit Gene Silva and end up winning this one. And then he's going to shout out Arkansas and ask for camo shorts and praise his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It's going to be awkward. Speaking of awkward, we get to the co-main event, the most cringy fight of the year so far. Patty the Batty Pimblett taking on Michael Jason Tatum Chandler, because he's as corny as Jason Tatum. And I hate this matchup so much because this matchup means that I am going to get Michael Chandler screaming for Conor McGregor and then screaming cringy things like, "If you can!" He is corny as hell. No one seems to notice it. He's more corny than Colby Covington at this point because that act is tired and it's contrived and everybody knows it. But there's nothing more corny than Michael Chandler. And I hate this fight because I'm going to end up getting that because Michael Chandler's going to beat the piss out of Patty Pimblett. Patty Pimblett's last outing was extremely impressive against Bobby Green, but this is a massive step up for him. Massive. And I think that people want Patty to be Conor because he does ooze confidence. Obviously, he's from England, even though Conor's Irish. Like, you want this dude to be the next Conor because obviously Conor is checked out and he's probably never going to fight again. You're not going to get that, though. I think there's levels to this game. I think that Patty's going to find that out, and I think he's going to get absolutely destroyed. And I hate it because, as I said, I'm going to get a cringy fucking post-fight press conference or post-fight interview. I was pissed off last fight that I had to listen to Michael Chandler. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, thank God he lost. I don't have to hear his cringy post-fight presser. And yet we ended up having a post-fight interview anyway. He's interesting. He's an interesting cat because, like, he'll end up getting his face chewed off by, much better fighters and seemingly stand in the octagon and smile about it, not realizing you're getting your ass beat. But, it's going to be a bloodbath. I think it's going to be a very one-sided fight. I don't think there's any path for victory for Patty Pimblett. I see Michael Chandler finishing him. And after that, as I said, we're going to get the Conor McGregor contrived call out. Get your house in order. Like, at this point, it's desperation to the nth degree. It's kind of sad. It's pathetic. It's like me constantly tweeting Sydney Sweeney asking for a Qdoba date. Not happening, dude. Like, give it up. but yet here we are. And now finally to the main event fight. You've got Diego Lopez taking on Alexander Volkanovski. I'll make this one quick. I think Volk takes it. I think Diego Lopez has been really, really impressive in his time in the UFC. I think he's been great. And I think that Volkanovski at this point is... I think people are sleeping on him. I think people forget how good Volk is. I think... Wire fell out of my mic. Where was I? Yeah, I think that people have slept on Volk. I think that Volk is still one of the top 2 featherweights. I think Diego Lopez is really good. I just think that Volk is better. I think the Volk has a more well-rounded approach. But I do also think that if Diego Lopez ends up winning this fight, then Volk is like, that's it. That's it for Volk. I think that his time in the sun is over. I don't like the fact that this fight is for a vacant title, because to me, it's kind of like when John Jones had to vacate at 205. It's kind of like, who else? There was more recent one where you sat back and you go like, we know who the real champion is, and it's not this dude. So it does kind of suck that whoever wins this fight, you still sit back and you go, Ilia Topuria is the best lightweight or featherweight if he wants to be, but he's moving up. So I think Volk takes this one. If you want a low-key fight that I actually like on this card, let's take a look real quick. I like Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. I like that fight. It's going to be a typical fight for Sean Woodson where he comes out and the announcers are going to go, man, his hands look fast. And you're going to sit back and you're going to go, why don't they just kick his legs because they're like twigs. Dan Ige, though, is going to, I think, end up connecting on one that is going to put Sean Woodson to sleep. Sean Woodson's going to have the hand speed. Dan Ige is going to have the power. I'm going to take Dan Ige in this one. I also think Dan Ige has just faced harder competition. So I like that one. Anything else I like in here? Julian Erosa and Darren Elkins is gross. That is disgusting. I hate the UFC for putting that fight together because I will watch it. It'll be like the Sixers this season. I'm going to watch that and hate myself for it. Chase Hooper actually and Jim Miller's a very interesting one because Chase Hooper went out there his last go-round and faced another UFC vet in Clay Guida and ended up winning. And now he faces Jim Miller, who's in a similar situation. UFC vet. I kind of like Chase Hooper in this one. I don't know what the betting odds are, but I kind of like Chase Hooper in this one. His stand-up game has improved drastically from where it was when he first started in the UFC. And I think that he's going to be a problem when he eventually takes Jim Miller's back. Doesn't mean Jim Miller ain't it. Like, he's got great ground game, and obviously that guillotine is real. But you've seen the evolution of Chase Hooper at this point where I think this is a really good fight for him. And I like him in this one. I don't necessarily think I'm going to be betting a ton on that fight because of the fact that Jim Miller has ended up facing, young guys before and humbling them. But I'm leaning towards Chase, especially after the last go round. Faced a very similar fighter in Clay Guida, guy with grappling, ground game, all that. Didn't matter. Chase Hooper ended up coming out on top. And then anything else on this card that I do end up liking? No, the rest of the prelims are kind of gross as I take a look at it. Kind of gross. All right, well, that will do it. There's your UFC 314 preview. To recap, I like Nikita Krylov. I like Yair Rodriguez. I like Bryce Mitchell. I don't like Michael Chandler, but I do think he's going to win this fight very easily. And then I like Alexander Volkanovski. The Phillies end up beating the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. They take the series. It was awesome. I mean, the Dodgers come in here. They're undefeated. They haven't lost a game, and the Phillies handed them that L. I mean, they did it with a gritty performance, especially in the rubber match with jumping out to a nice 6-2 lead, blowing said lead, and then finding a way to come back and take the series. But I got in some hot water. I got in a little hot water on Twitter.com because of my post that I made about the one guy who has not just one, he's got all of the Phillies' losses this season. And look, it's an early season. We're what, 6 games in? Like, the fact that Aaron Nola is 0-2 and has the Phillies' only 2 losses, that doesn't speak to what the season will be for him. I mean, he could end up having an unbelievable year. He could end up winning the Cy Young Award. But I went on Twitter.com after I finally uploaded these damn videos because, let me tell you, it took a while. And I was dealing with the Aaron Nola truthers, the Aaron Nola defenders. Here's what I had to deal with on Twitter, which finally I reached a breaking point. Big Boy Bob said, "This is the lamest shit I've ever heard." You're a Philadelphia sports fan. I'm sure you've heard lamer. Like, I don't know, for example, let's bring 30 people to the 99 NFL draft and boo anyone not named Ricky Williams. That was pretty lame. Me, dare saying, yeah, I don't really want to watch Aaron Nola pitch anymore. That's the lamest shit ever. But if that really is the lamest shit you've ever heard, you count yourself lucky. Jonathan Pino told me, don't give Aaron Nola the Taijuan Walker treatment, which is ironic because Taijuan Walker actually pitched really well in his one start this season. I mean, like, surprisingly well. And I know this because I watched it. And Jonathan must not have watched the video, which is fine. I mean, I'm just starting this channel. A lot of people didn't watch the video. Where I clearly said my problem with Aaron Nola is the fact that he will look like an ace for 3 innings. And then he will implode. At least I know what Taijuan Walker is. At least I know. But, I mean, it is loosey with the football when it comes to Aaron Nola. All right, John Riebel just wants to bring up the offense. And this is a popular thing amongst Aaron Nola truthers. They want to bring up the offensive struggles when I'm talking about a pitcher. If Aaron Nola had gone out there and pitched 7 innings and given up no runs, 1 run, hell, even 2 runs, I would have said, man, what a performance from Aaron Nola. Good job on him. But he didn't do that. And this is the thing I saw in Aaron Nola's first start, was people bringing up the offensive struggles. Deflecting. All of a sudden, we're deflecting now. Like, well, it's not Aaron Nola's fault. The offense can't. Apples and oranges. I'm not criticizing the offense. If you want to criticize the offense, by all means, go ahead. Criticize the offense. I'm not doing that. I'm criticizing the pitcher who we're praising when he's getting almost $25 million a season to what? Now, Daniel Riccioni got really mad at me because I got tired of it, and I started going back at some people. And I told them to stop getting mad at me for dare saying I'm not going to watch any Aaron Nola starts, go touch grass. And Daniel decided to go with the whole Now, Daniel got really mad at me because Daniel thinks that I just have to take shit and I can't dish it out. I'm not allowed to because I'm a, quote, Philadelphia sports radio personality. I'm just supposed to eat shit left and right from trolls. So when I dare go back at them and I tell them, stop worrying about a dude not watching Aaron Nola starts, go touch some grass, he proceeds to tell me unfollow. Daniel, that is the equivalent of going into a Olive Garden and telling them, I just want to let you know I'm not dining here. Daniel, I didn't know you existed. Straight up. Didn't know you existed. Don't really care you exist. Won't miss you. So you're going to look at me and think I'm baby shit soft. But unfollowing for that, no, that's next level baby shit soft. And then finally, my favorite is from In the Alley podcast, a Twitter troll and then some. I've had a lot of interactions with this guy over the 4 years, and I can honestly say, go fuck yourself. This is the best part about not having to be employed by a station or have to answer to a program director who's 68 years old and just wants to talk about the Eagles. Like, when I deal with douchebags like this dude who say, well, then don't watch the games, loser, I can tell them to go fuck themselves. Because this dude is one of the people that we routinely have to deal with being in sports media. I mean, I'm barely in it now, but when I was, where this dude is mad because he thinks he knows so much more about baseball, so much more, and he can't understand why he's not getting paid and why slap dicks like me or some of my coworkers were getting paid. So he gets really, really upset, and he proceeds to go at us at every turn, every opportunity. He will let us know. I'm in a group chat with a few former coworkers, and funny enough, he went at one of them in February, and in the group chat, the person texted all of us and said, well, I know baseball season's coming up because this dickhead's coming at me. Yep. Yeah, look, I quote tweeted him, and I said, I don't really make my life decisions on you. And then I think I told him to fuck off. I can't stress this enough. If you want to watch Aaron Nola pitch, I'm not stopping you. I'm not. Watch him. Believe. You know, you want to listen to the broadcast and believe he's an ace. If you want to listen to the broadcast tell you that he had a great outing when he went 6 innings, giving up 3 earned runs, giving up 2 more home runs, and, you know, his ERA is pushing 6. Granted, once again, it's after 2 starts. But still, if you want to sit there and believe that this dude is still a number 2, I'm not. Hey, I'm going to pat you on the head, and I'm going to tell you you're a good boy, and I'm going to keep it moving. I got another tweet from a guy who was like, well, he's number 2 on 20 teams in Major League Baseball. Yeah, he's number 2 on 20 teams in Major League Baseball that aren't contending for a World Series like the Phillies are. I go back to my original point with this. If you were to sit here and tell me that you are comfortable in an Aaron Nola start, you're lying to yourself. You are straight up lying. And I would love to be able to clip this in 3, 4, 5 months and laugh at how dumb I am. I actually prided myself when I was, on radio as being a guy that had no problem telling you when he was wrong. I'll quote tweet myself and I'll remind the world of dumb shit I've said. I've routinely, for cold takes, exposed myself. But the fact that this dude has this many truthers out there and we're not demanding better after he got $172 million over 7 years. The fact that we're sitting there still dealing with the gopher ball issue that has plagued him since 2018 is a joke. And what? Because I dare say, I don't really enjoy watching this. I'm a loser. Go fuck yourself. I'm serious. This is the best part about not having to deal with a boss. Is it professional? No, it's not. I don't really give a fuck. I don't. Because now I can do things the way I want to do them. And I can tell you that no one gives a fuck what you think, man. Like, these Twitter trolls that are so mad because, what? Because somebody is getting paid to do it and they don't know as much as you. Okay, work harder. I don't know. You do a podcast once a week, every month. And you're big mad because you don't have the following that other people do. So what do? You lash out at them and you call them losers and stuff. If that makes you feel better, by all means, do it. But I'm done. I'm done dealing with dickheads like this who want me to sit there and Clockwork Orange myself and watch a guy that I do not enjoy watching. Baseball is 162 games. I'm sure In the Alley Pod knows that because he knows everything about baseball. Hell, he probably invented the game. It's 162. You can skip a game or two. And for me, I'm going to be skipping the majority of the Aaron Nola starts because I just don't enjoy it. I don't. And I know that I would not have enjoyed watching him pitch and give up home runs. Would I have enjoyed the offense struggling to hit? No, I wouldn't have. Not at all. But I watch the show Severance, and I hate watch it. I hate Severance with an unhealthy passion. I think Severance is one of the most overrated shows of all time. I think it is the show of The Emperor Has No Clothes, that so many people tell you it's amazing that nobody wants to say, yeah, this is kind of shitty and I'm not getting any answers and it's just getting weirder and weirder. I hate watch it. So why in the world, now that Severance is over, thank fucking God, why in the world would I sit there and subject myself to watching Aaron Nola starts when I don't like that either? Life's too short. I can do something else with my time. But again, I'm not trying to change hearts and minds and tell you why you shouldn't watch Aaron Nola pitch. I'm just telling you I'm not going to do it anymore. And if you think that makes me a loser, if you think I'm any less of a fan, believe it or not, I'm still going to sleep at night. And somehow I'll find the courage to keep on living. But dealing with these Kool-Aid drinking Aaron Nola truthers, it's like, until I see it, the dude had what, a 3.6 last year? And this is before the extension kicked in? I would, 3.3 is cool. 3.6 led Major League Baseball in home runs. Pitches in Citizens Bank Park, hitter-friendly confines of Citizens Bank Park. And I'm supposed to convince myself again? No. If you want to be Charlie Brown running towards that football only for Aaron Nola to whip it away at the last second, by all means, have fun. I'm not going to stop you. But to get mad at people for saying, no, I'm good. And by the way, people, I mean me. Like, I don't know anyone else that's not watching them. But it's funny to me that we have convinced ourselves that this dude is a number 2, an 8. Like, Luzardo looks so much better than him. You can't tell me Ranger Suarez last season didn't look better than him. Christopher Sanchez was an all-star. Like, what the hell are we doing? Getting mad because somebody says, oh my God, I can't believe it. You know, and I'm sure like people are going to go, whoa, you can't believe that you're sitting here all mad at a Twitter comment. Yeah, like it's annoying. It's fucking annoying. Dealing with some of these dickheads, these like miserable dickheads that are so mad that people don't listen to their opinions and people listen to people's opinions like me. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know everything about baseball. I certainly do not. But one thing I do know is Aaron Nola is not a number 2. Aaron Nola might not even be number 3. And I showed you guys the chart. I showed you his career stats since 2018. It is a roller coaster. Up, down, up, down, up, down. This is going to be the down year. This is like expecting the economy not to crash when you invoke tech. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do it. So yeah, I'm sticking to my guns. If you don't like it, tough shit. You can watch it. Just some closing thoughts real quick, because I did notice that in one of the comments that I got, it was actually the only comment that I did actually read from one of my videos, and I can't even tell you what video it was, but whoever it was said, hey, if you want to like really do well on YouTube, you have to engage in the comments. I will not be doing that. No shot in hell. I deal with enough bullshit on Twitter that I usually end up like at least once, twice, maybe 3 times a year, I will just mute all notifications because I just don't feel like arguing with people. It was like the worst part of my job was just arguing with people, because a lot of times people aren't willing to listen or understand your side of things. They just want to argue, and you're not changing hearts and minds out here. Now it's done respectfully, of course. Yeah, okay, and that's why I put in the I guess body or whatever the topics thing. I put like, hey, try to be respectful in the comments. But the reality is, we're talking sports here. People aren't going to be respectful in the comments, and people are going to call me soft for this. But I just don't need it. I don't need to sit there and be angry because some random guy is popping off with his thumbs and being a keyboard warrior and telling me why I'm an idiot and this, that, and the third. What I've noticed throughout the 15 years I've been on Twitter is people don't admit they're wrong. People simply double down on the stupidity. I could have done that many times because Lord only knows there is a litany of bad takes that I've had. The one that jumps out, the most recent one is probably Sixers will finish top 4 in the East. Book it. Yeah, no, they're not. They will probably finish bottom 4 in the league. If we're lucky, they'll finish bottom 4. I would love to be able to say that I will be reading the comments and going back and forth. The reality is, I might see one here, one there. It will be by sheer accident. And if I see it and it's decent, yeah, okay, I'll comment. For that particular comment, I just said, nah, I'm good. Because that's the reality of the situation. I'm good. I don't need to argue back and forth with people. I think a lot of times people fail to realize that whether it be tweets or YouTube videos, some people aren't looking for a discussion. Some people are looking for a statement. And for me, in this situation, most of these videos are kind of just statements. You can agree with it, you can disagree. And you are more than happy to argue in the comment section amongst yourselves. I just probably won't be there. Just a heads up, okay? If that makes me soft, whatever. I don't really care. I'm kind of over it at this point. I'm old enough where I'm not going to sit and argue with random people on the internet till the wee hours of the morning. I've been there. I've done that. Time to move on. Find a new hobby. I enjoy talking sports. I enjoy getting my thoughts out there. And I will poke fun at myself more than anybody else. Trust me when I say nobody hates me more than I hate me. But I'm just not about it. I'm not about trying to go back and forth with people. I do this on my movie/TV YouTube channel, which you can search that. It's called The Recaps. And I say in every one, hey, I don't really check the comments section. Nasty comments, they kind of eat at me. So if I'm not doing it for a movie/TV channel, which you're not going to get too many dickheads on that one, I'm certainly not going to do it for a sports channel when, it's kind of the nature of the biz, if you will. But if I can avoid it, I'm going to avoid it. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate you guys watching. Doesn't mean I don't appreciate you guys chiming in with your thoughts. That's fine. If you guys want to use the comment section as a platform to voice your opinion, by all means. But I just want to give you a heads up. Probably won't be checking it very often. But once again, I do appreciate it. I will leave now.